Things. Hello, hello, hello. I am so freaking excited about this topic today. We are talking about more soul, more money with Jennifer Bloome. This is going to be so much fun. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Sabrina Victoria. I am the host here at Her Talk Show. If you have not already subscribed, girl, what are you waiting for? These podcasts are guaranteed to have you thinking differently about life. Let's jump right in.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
If you're listening live, welcome. And if you're listening on the replay, make sure you drop replay into the comments so we can send you some love. We have had over 500 women on this stage, and we are so excited to add another one to the list today. Jennifer Bloome is a soul abundance guide, energy healer, and Master Soul Language Practitioner. She guides people to communicate directly with their soul so they can co-create more of what they want, from relationships to babies to money. Super excited about this topic. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Sabrina. I'm really excited. I love talking all about this, so can't wait to dive in.
Me too. So I do want to notate before we jump in that I am drinking from a salsa jar today. Right before we jumped on, I'm literally drinking as I'm letting Jennifer on stage. And I'm like, girl, I'm just not realizing that I'm drinking from a salsa jar. And I think this is so aligned with some of maybe what we're going to be talking about today regarding money. So I was telling Jennifer that I just stopped buying glasses like 5 or 6 years ago. I'm like, I'm not buying glasses anymore because I'm throwing a bunch of salsa and spaghetti jars in the trash every single day that I pay for. So I'm like, once our glasses are done with, you keep breaking our glasses. We're using salsa and spaghetti jars going forward until I see any changes anywhere else. But kind of right along with money, right? Frugal and where we're at mentally as far as lack. So I don't preach to know all the things regarding rising up in your money story. So I love talking about this subject because I know that I can always get better in it and reframing. And I know that all of us can jump into this. So Jennifer, before we jump in, more soul, more money. Why are you bringing this topic to us today?
You know, I'm really tired, and I'll say that I'm tired for myself. Money is an absolute teacher for me. It has been the leader for me to reconnect with who I really am. And I'm tired of all the conversations that I'm having with women where what's in the bank account is driving self-esteem. And this isn't a conversation about charge what you worth. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But this is all about not looking to something external to decide how you're going to wake up and feel that day, right? Like, oh, wait a minute, do I have is there enough in the account? Is there enough in the retirement account? What happens to the bills and all the property taxes? And right, it's this constant refrain that's in our heads. And yes, we need to think about all those things, but we tend to take all of that and then make a decision about who we are, or are we doing well enough, all of that. And it's bogus. And so that's why we're having the conversation today.
I am so aligned with this and can so much relate, especially early on in my story, being in such a devastating journey of lack of money as a single mom, and really being hard on myself because of the negative money that I continuously had, and allowing that to dictate my self-esteem, which allowed me to end up in a abusive relationship.
Yeah, it gives, how we do one thing is how we do everything. Right. And what I love about the conversation around money is that money is, you can count it. Self-esteem is sort of this wishy-washy, touchy-feely kind of a conversation. Money, cold hard facts. right? You know what's in your bank account, you know what you're bringing in, right? And so if we can have the conversation about money and start to make some shifts and changes, and you start seeing things changing, then you really know that you're onto something. It's just a really beautiful, tangible tool to create expansion for all of us.
Yeah. I would love for you to talk a little bit on this word abundance. I know that it's something that you really hone in on within your community and our identity around it and how that's connected to money. As far as abundance goes, what is your view first thing? What is your view on abundance? Is that just money or does that encompass a few things?
Money, excuse me, abundance is the big picture. Abundance is, what are you letting into your life? So abundance can be anything from money to love, to relationships, to the art that you have around you, the creativity that you play with, to how you feel, who you are in your relationship with yourself. I think that a lot of us drink life through one of those little cocktail straws, right? That's what we're letting in terms of abundance. We can be, you want one of those like giant straws that they give you when you have a really thick shake, right? Not the cocktail straw. And so even though we tend to have one or two areas of abundance that really are our teachers, in general, if you start looking at asking and allowing yourself to receive more, that's the conversation around abundance, instead of just, what do I have for retirement, or what am I making, or can I get through this month, or I'm working 80 hours, or I'm working 120 hours, or I'm working 30 hours, and it doesn't matter, it's all the same amount of money, right? So abundance is the big picture, and money is one slice of that picture.
One of the reasons why I love podcasting so much is when I get women like you on who just give the most amazing visuals, like this cocktail straw. What an amazing visual and truth to that, as far as, yeah, some of us are drinking out of a little tiny cocktail straw. And what's so interesting about that is when you said it, I thought to myself, all you have to do is ask for a different straw.
That's right. That's right. But you know what? We have years and years and years of programming, I'll say, whether it comes from family or whether it comes from culture, whether it comes from the movies, right? And I think women in general, right? That's another area where things get a little bit iffy. But we have been taught to take what we get and say thank you.
Mm.
And that stops us from asking for a different straw, because we think that we're selfish, or we think we're entitled, or we think we're not being a good person, or we think that we're going to, I've got a client right now who is pretty sure that if, he is asking for more, he's going to be damned. Right. I mean, like literally, so there's this whole breadth of reasons why we choose not to act or not to ask for that other straw. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of that, you named a few words there, but I wrote down selfish.
Mm.
And yeah, I can totally relate to that as far as many times when we start talking around the words of money or abundance, it could be seen as evil, it being not good.
Right.
How does somebody even start to turn thinking like that around?
Yeah. So the first thing is to realize is that we have millennia of stories, right, relating to money and relating to power. Right? There's a huge history of those who have money and those who don't, and those who want to keep it. And so it's created this whole narrative around money. And it can get a little bit tricky when you're trying to pick through all of that and try to figure out, oh, now, but I want this, how do I change it? The fastest, easiest way to do that is to remember first that money is actually a divine resource. Money is actually tangible divinity. So that dollar bill or that euro or that coin is actually, at its origin, divine. And when you start to tap back into that and you start to remember that, now you can create a whole new understanding of and it's a relationship. You're in relationship with money. You're in relationship with divinity. And as I said, money is a divine resource. So you're in relationship with money. So as you start to clean up that, it becomes a lot easier then to step into the belief structure that will allow you to continue with the analogy, to choose that different straw.
Yes, definitely makes sense. When you're speaking of divinity, for people that maybe are unfamiliar or people who are maybe just stepping into this realm, can you kind of give us like a definition of what divinity is?
How about a bigger question next time? And without a doubt, right? So number one, I'm not talking about religion. This is separate from religion. We are, in my viewpoint, and as I always tell my clients, come along or don't. You're free to take on what I believe or not. But I believe that we are a drop of divinity, God, goddess, nature, universe, source, all the same name. And what I mean by that is that which is bigger than us, that energy or that quality of something that is bigger than every single one of us on this planet. And we are a drop of that ocean. And I tend to think of it as this big gooey ball of love. Everybody kind of has their own definition of it, but that's what I mean by divinity. And it goes by, that's the word I use. I'll use the word source as well, but you use, nature is another way to describe it. So whatever someone has a connection to, you can use that language and it applies throughout everything that I'm talking about.
Beautiful. And then when we're talking about abundance identity, like when I think of abundance, I just think more of. But you're actually talking about specific identities that we all have. What are some of these?
Okay, so let's start from the beginning with this. So as a person, right, we have our own identity. For me, I'm white, I'm female, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, right? So, and I am this drop of divinity. That's me, that's my identity. Within that, from the time we're in utero, we are picking up on all kinds of thoughts and beliefs and attitudes regarding abundance in general. So, for example, I remember a client talking to me about wanting to, as a kid, remembering she wanted a new pair of jeans. And, the response from her mother was, well, we don't buy anything new, right? If you want something, either it comes from your sister or it comes from the resale store. And it was, or somebody, whose parent, you're asking for something, you're 4 or 5 and you're in the store and you want something. And your parent says to you, stop being so selfish. Now, in reality, they're probably hurting because they would like to get it for you, but maybe it's not available at this point, right? The funds aren't available. And so instead they lash out from their disconnection and you're greedy, you're selfish, right? And so all of that up until about the time that we're 7, our subconscious is wide open. We're in this massive learning mode. And so we take everything in as truth. And so that then creates what I call our abundance identity. It's that part of us that understands the world through these different rules regarding abundance and money specifically. So when you try to, for example, if you're trying to change how much money you have in your life and you're using vision boards or meditations or affirmations, all of those are amazing tools, but they don't actually get to the heart of things. They don't get into what our actual beliefs are, what our internal structure is. And so if you really want to make a change, that's, in addition to remembering that money is a divine resource, you have to really get in and start to say, what is it that I'm believing?
Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely a lot more context to what that is and how somebody can begin to make changes towards that. Because I think that's the main thing. It's like once we start to recognize what it is, it's like, okay, get it. But like, now what?
Yeah, 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 exactly. And awareness is really important. You can't shift what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And so that actually in and of itself is a really good thing to remember anytime you're trying to change something as big as the amount of money that's coming into your life, or whether you've wanted a relationship, or whether that baby is elusive, right? Is to remember that you knew what you knew when you knew it, and things happen because of that. And now, instead of taking that as history to beat yourself up over, or to say, I haven't been able to do that, why is it ever going to be able to happen to me? Or I haven't met anybody who's been able to do it, or I've met people who can do it and I can't, so there's something wrong with me, right? If you can remember, okay, as I'm gaining this new awareness, I get to let go of that past history, because that was the me who didn't know what she didn't know.
Yeah. I would love to talk a little bit about, you've mentioned past a few times when we were younger, things we done when we were younger. And I think a lot of us have come into our adult years, and especially in the coaching arena, of this mindset of serving others
Mm.
and being so entrenched in this mindset of serving others that they give, 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 and then end up going out of business because they're not taking, getting, receiving money.
Yeah.
What are some of your thoughts around that? What is maybe a key point or two? We have quite a few people listening live right here, that you could give to somebody to kind of step out of that mindset of like, yes, here to serve others. Like, I get it. And
You know, absolutely. So the one of the paradigms that I use is called soul language. And in the soul language world, you have three languages that are core to you. They're your soul gifts. And the reason why I bring this up, one of the most important lessons out of soul language is that you use your gifts for yourself first and then for others. I think that, again, we're taught that it's better to give than receive. I think that we're told that anything in the service industry is, we get in this mindset of, can people afford it? Or this is spiritual, I shouldn't be charging for it. Right. Every time I start talking about this, I have, bras and underwear should be free. I mean, that's something we all need. But when it comes into our services, right, okay, so I'm giving to somebody, so I should give instead of coming back and receiving. The reality is that giving and receiving are a cycle. So if you are giving and giving and giving and giving and not receiving, you are not in divine balance. I'll just say that as a phrase. So there's something off here. And so if you can bring that to the awareness, and to remember that your gifts are for you first, that is going to help you start to begin to break that cycle of not getting what you need. But of course, even just saying that, how many times were you admonished as a kid for asking for what you needed? We have to really give ourselves that permission. It's okay. And then specifically in the realm of money, right? As you are asking for that money, if you're asking for that money, how do you feel? Are you feeling selfish? Are you feeling greedy? Are you feeling needy? Are you feeling entitled? Those are your clues. Like when you start getting into that space and you start feeling off, right? Because when you feel greedy and entitled, it doesn't feel good. But truly, when you start feeling that way, that's a signal that you are believing something opposite to what your personal divinity believes.
Okay, wait, say that last sentence one more time.
Okay. So we are all drops of the ocean, right? We have a soul connection. When you experience something that doesn't feel good, you are believing something. It is a signal that you are disagreeing with what your soul believes about that.
Okay, so when you're asking like for charging, how do you feel about the amount that you're charging? That's kind of what you're saying. So if there's a misalignment in too high or too low,
Right.
then it's saying something to you.
Correct. That's your signal that there's something off here. So if you say, I'm going to, I would talk about money. We really do think of it as transactional, right? I go to the store, I buy bananas, and I give money, and I take it in, right?
Yeah.
But what we are really doing is we have this relationship with money. And if you were in a relationship with your best friend and you are asking for something that makes you feel not so good, right? It's the same thing. If you are asking for more money than you can feel okay about, or if you're asking for too little money, if you pay attention to those signals that are happening they're going to happen in your body. You might think of them in your mind. As you pay attention there, you're getting all kinds of clues as to what your specific relationship with money is.
Got it. Definitely makes sense. How did you yourself, Jennifer Bloome, end up in the world of money?
Kicking and screaming. So I started a business back in 2001. I was working in the mind body realm, specifically in women's health, which evolved into helping women get pregnant, people who are experiencing infertility. And I was bipping along and my husband got laid off. And then I was bipping along and my husband got laid off again. And then during that layoff, we had multiple medical things that happened that we had to pay for without insurance because insurance is tied to jobs, but that's a whole other soapbox I will not get into today. And we went through bankruptcy. And it was the most top 3, let's call it, devastating things that I have been through. I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. I was taught that you were always supposed to have enough savings so that you could get through anything. And we did. We drained our 401k. We did everything we could before. We could have declared bankruptcy and not, I found out later, spent all of our 401k. But regardless, we went through it, shame, embarrassment. And as I was picking up the pieces, what I realized was the bankruptcy was all about my personal self-esteem. I was working hard in my business to have a certain level of achievement, but I was saying to myself, well, but it's kind of convoluted logic is what it sounds like here. So I really want this business. I want to have enough clients, but if I don't have enough clients, is my message not good enough? Am I not good enough? Right. So I was sort of caught in this cycle that would never let me move forward. And then I was bashing myself. So even though there's all of these external things that I could point to say, well, this is why we went through bankruptcy, right? The mental side of things, nothing changed until I realized, wait a minute, I'm making who I am and my love for myself conditional on how I'm doing in business.
Mm.
And once I did that, I started asking, well, how do I shift and change? And everything that I was doing personally to shift and change was what I was teaching women about how to shift and change in order to get pregnant. So I took what I was already teaching and applying it into this other avenue of abundance. So that's how I came. And it, like I said, I came kicking and screaming because money's been such a teacher and there was so much shame and embarrassment around it. But once I was able to see it for what it was and why I went through, it was easy to share that story. And I don't ever want anybody to be in that position that I was in. Or if you've been in that position, getting yourself moved forward so that you can feel right about stopping the cocktail straw and asking for the different, bigger milkshake straw.
Yes, yes, definitely. And when you're taking on that bigger straw, becoming more prosperous, I know that you talk about the power of being prosperous. And I'm assuming that it's it's a like a snowball effect
Hmm.
when you kind of step in. Is it?
Yeah, I think that's a really great analogy. So usually when we're looking at money, the first thing we want to do is, what do I need to do? Right? If I have a bill to pay, what class can I offer? Or what new service can I put out? Or gosh, I'd really like not to have to think about money at all. So how do I get to that 6-figure, 7-figure, 8-figure, right? That's the new thing in the coaching world, right? Is this 8-figure business, which again, no judgment, but right. How do I get there? And it becomes this doing question.
Yeah.
What do I do? What's my strategy? And no question, there's always going to be action. However, the first step is more internal. It's that being space. It's that alignment, realigning with divinity, God, goddess, nature. It's realigning with money itself. If you hold a lot of money in your hands, or you imagine being in a room with a whole pile of money and swimming around in it, if that makes you feel gross and icky and terrible, that means you're out of alignment, right? With this relationship. I'm losing the train here. So ask me another question.
This is very interesting because when you said that, initially, when you said that, like holding money in your hands, it feels good to me. But then when you were kind of like, does that feel good or does that feel bad? I was like, how would that feel bad? And then my mind flipped to, and I'm sure people do this, all the germs on money.
Right. Money's dirty. Like literally, money is literally dirty. Yeah.
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 And
Yeah.
how even that could play a role.
Right. Absolutely. So to get back to the snowball analogy, right? As you repair these aspects of your relationship, and as you are in this being space, you start to hear nudges from your divinity, nudges from your soul, and those become inspired actions. Or things just happen. I mean, one of my favorite stories, and this is a personal story, and I don't often share figures and numbers because they're different from everybody, but this was such an amazing experience for me. So last year, I was in the process of putting together a program, and one of the tools I use is EFT, emotional freedom technique, tapping. And so I was putting together this whole set of tapping for repairing your relationship with the divine, with money, and with yourself. So I'm pre-recording all this stuff. So I spent weeks tapping on myself as I'm recording all these videos. I have never been so clean and clear around money. And about a month later, I got a surprise $50,000 check, something that completely unrelated to business, completely unrelated to anything I could have possibly imagined. Right. So things start to shift and change. That created its right. All of that work created this incredible snowball effect. And the result was that amount of money. It could also just as easily have resulted in an idea for a new product, or it could have put me in the right place at the right time to receive it another way. So absolutely, it snowballs.
What a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate that. For those, just want to check in real fast for those watching live. We have quite a few people watching live. They're obviously resonating with all the goodness that you're sharing. So thank you so much for all of the awesomeness that we're talking about here, Jennifer. I would love for you to take a moment, though. Obviously, we've got individuals who are interested in what you are sharing, but maybe they don't know specifically what you do. So if you could take a moment and kind of talk a little bit about your business and who should specifically be reaching out to you? Who do you help?
So let's start there. So I work with people who are feeling rejected and abandoned by money. So what that looks like is you've worked really hard and things aren't changing. You've wanted something for a really long time and you just haven't been able to get it. So what I'm going to do, in the process of my work is to identify all of that, that feeling of anger, frustration, guilt, right? And to be able to start to shift that so that you can begin to feel cherished by the divinity in all of its forms. So we're no longer feeling abandoned and moving into that space of feeling cherished, because when you're there, that's when things start to flow. So specifically in the work, we start by working with this paradigm of soul language, and we identify your personal languages. And then the second thing we do is we're going to, so anything that you are in relationship with, you also brought specific languages to support you. So I'm going to identify your personal languages. I'm going to identify your languages with money, and I'm going to identify your languages with the divine. And what that's going to do is give you a tool to learn how to connect with divinity, because it's all great and wonderful to say, oh, I'm this drop of the divine, and you're supposed to tune in and talk to God or nature. How do I do that? So I'm going to I give people that tool to start to have a really conscious relationship with divinity, with themselves, and with money. And then we start asking the story about what's going on. What is your abundance identity? So we get to the heart of what is keeping you from asking for more, and start to shift those beliefs, clear out and heal any old traumas that are keeping you in that place, so that you can now step into an abundance identity that allows you to both ask for more and to receive it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for all of that.
Mm-hmm.
For those that want to know more information, for those that want to follow you on social media, where can everyone find you?
So I am out on Instagram at soul.abundance. I'm on LinkedIn. My website is Jennifer Bloome, that's with an E.com. And on the homepage, I've got a presentation all about the abundance identity. So if people want to dive a little bit more, they can get that information just on the homepage of my website.
Awesome. And why do you do what you do?
I've taken a different path than a lot of people in my family. Most, my dad worked for the same institution his whole life. My mom, had different work jobs. I am the first entrepreneur in my family. And that has led, nobody ever told me I couldn't do it, but it led to me thinking, gosh, can I really do this new thing? I want women to be able to follow their passions and to be able to receive from them, or to find a way to be supported while doing what they love to do. So that's why I do what I do.
That is so awesome. I so appreciate you being here and sharing so much information with us. For those watching live, thank you for being here. If you resonate with Jennifer and all the goodness that she shared today, make sure you check her out on her website, jenniferbloome.com. It isn't a clickable link wherever you're watching us at, and also her social media. We love to connect people here on this platform in order to make sure we continue to rise. Any closing thoughts, Jennifer, as we wrap up?
Just that the more you remember who you are, the more things can change. So I really appreciate the conversation today. It's so much fun to bring this information out.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here. That brings us to an end of yet another incredible episode of Her Talk Show. Thank you, Jennifer, for sharing your wisdom and inspiring us all. To our dedicated listeners, thank you for staying with us until the very end. Remember to follow, like, and share. Once again, I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I invite you to join our amazing community, Her Nation, where we continue to uplift each other every step of the way. Until next time.